My name is Melissa. Standing at the quiet airport lounge, I'm still in disbelief at what just happened. I watched my parents walk away, leaving my grandpa alone, like he was nothing but an unclaimed piece of luggage. It was a moment that shattered everything I believed about my family. Growing up in San Francisco, my family seemed perfect on the outside. We lived in a large, modern apartment overlooking the bay. My dad, Richard, was a successful stockbroker who was always busy with his high-profile clients. He was strict and believed that success was measured by wealth and status. My mom, Victoria, was a socialite who spent her days attending charity events and making sure our family image was impeccable. I was their eldest daughter, always striving to meet their high expectations. I was the honor student, involved in every extracurricular activity, and had a long list of awards on my wall. But my grandpa, Henry, was different. He was a retired carpenter with calloused hands and a warm smile. He was the one who always told me, "Melissa, you don't need to be perfect. Just be yourself." Every Saturday afternoon, while my parents were out socializing, he would take me to the local park. We'd watch the street performers and have ice cream. He called me Melly, a nickname that was special just between us. As I got older, my parents started to distance Grandpa from the family. They said he was getting forgetful and that he was a burden. They moved him to a small room at the back of the apartment. But I would still sneak in to see him, especially when I was stressed from school. He never asked about my grades or achievements. Instead, he'd tell me stories about his youth, like the time he built his first wooden chair. One day, I overheard my dad on the phone. He was talking to a lawyer about transferring Grandpa's assets. I was shocked and confronted them that night. My mom just rolled her eyes and said I was being overly emotional. My dad told me that it was a practical decision, that Grandpa was a liability. Then, one evening at dinner, my dad announced that we were going on a family trip to Australia. He said it would be a great opportunity to make memories before things got worse for Grandpa. I looked at Grandpa sitting quietly beside me, and when I whispered if he wanted to go on an adventure, he gave me a small smile. I agreed to the trip, not because I believed it was a real family trip, but because I had a feeling it was a test. The morning we left for the airport, the sky was a deep blue, and the air was filled with the smell of the ocean. Grandpa held onto my hand tightly, carrying a small photo of my late grandma. He seemed confused, but trustingly followed us. At the airport, the crowd was noisy, and the fluorescent lights were blinding. My mom pulled me aside and said, "Melissa, go get us some coffee." I asked about Grandpa, and she said he was fine. My dad led Grandpa to a chair in a corner and told him to wait while they went to check in. As minutes turned into half an hour, I knew something was wrong. I went to the check-in counter and found out that my parents had already checked in and were about to board the flight. They had no intention of coming back for Grandpa. I ran back to the corner where Grandpa was sitting. He was looking around, so lost and scared. "Melly, where did they go?" he asked in a trembling voice. I held his hands and said, "Grandpa, it's okay. I'm here. We're leaving." As we walked towards the exit, my mom called out my name. My dad stood beside her, looking stern. They told me to come back, that Grandpa needed professional care. I told them firmly that I wasn't leaving him behind like they were trying to do. In the end, I hailed a cab and took Grandpa to the bus station. I called my great-aunt Lucy, Grandpa's younger sister, who lived in a small town in Oregon. She had always been kind to me and had once told me to call if anything happened to Grandpa. She answered right away and said she'd be waiting for us. We got on the bus and watched the city fade away. For the first time in my life, I wasn't following my parents' rules. I was making my own choice, and it felt like coming home. When we arrived in Oregon, Aunt Lucy was waiting at the station with a sign that said, "Henry plus Melissa." She hugged Grandpa tightly, and I felt a sense of relief wash over me. In the following weeks, I settled in with Grandpa and Aunt Lucy. I helped around the house and took Grandpa for walks in the countryside. I even signed up for a part-time course in elderly care at the local community college. One day, as I was pushing Grandpa's wheelchair in the garden, he looked at me and said, "Melly, you did the right thing." I smiled and told him that I wished I could have done more sooner. He just shook his head and said, "You stayed, and that's what matters." When Grandpa passed away, it was a peaceful morning. I found him in his chair, with a soft smile on his face. I sat beside him, held his hand, and whispered that I'd always remember him. A week later, I went back to San Francisco. When I rang the doorbell of our old apartment, my mom opened the door. Her eyes were red, and she looked tired. I told them that Grandpa had passed away peacefully, surrounded by love. I then handed them an envelope that Aunt Lucy had given me. It was Grandpa's will, leaving most of his savings and a heartfelt letter to me. I said to them, "I'm not here to fight. I just want you to know that I'm okay, and Grandpa was too. I've found my real home." Back in Oregon, I continued my studies and my work at the local nursing home. I kept the photo of Grandpa and me on my bedside table, and every night, I'd look at it and know that in choosing to stand by him, I'd chosen myself. And that will always be enough.